All right, so less than a minute to the bell here. Final review for those of you guys just getting logged in. TNXP is our, well, it's actually our third leading gapper. It's gapping up this morning 37%. Former runner, history of making big moves with room on the daily chart up to 1186, the 200 moving average. Watching TNXP and watching GLBS. GLBS over $9 is interesting, but to start the day, what I'm thinking is a quick scalp on TNXP. I'll be watching GLBS to see how it behaves, but TNXP is the one I'm watching first. So let's watch TNXP here. I've got a starter on TNXP, long TNXP here, and now over 415 is where I would look to add. So let's watch this. We've got a high of 410. So now over 410 is where I would add on TNXP. Watching the break over 410. A lot of volatility on it, not surprising. I'll watch a red to green move. GLBS, not interested. TNXP, watching it back over $4. There's 4. Sold TNXP 405 and a little at 406. I certainly didn't like going red on it in the first few minutes of trading, or first few seconds of trading. I expected an immediate break of the high of 413, and we double topped there. Hit 410, pulled back, sold as we came back up. I don't like to panic sell and hit the bid, because these so likely do those red to green moves where they dip down and then they do surge back up. But right now it's kind of going to be a tricky pattern for me to trade. So can watch it for a red to green move and see if we get another opportunity. GLBS, right now is looking a little tricky. I'm not sure about it just yet. High on GLBS is 880. I have an order ready at $9, but I'm not sure quite yet. TNXP, we'll watch a red to green move, see if it comes back up. I don't see really an easy opportunity at the moment to short TNXP. I think, certainly a false breakout up here, you could have gone short, but there wasn't enough time for me to do that. GLBS, the low of day there, 65. Just selling off. TNXP, first candle, of the day is probably going to be a fairly big red candle. We could watch the first 1 minute candle to make a new high for a red to green move. It's probably worth a stab. The high is 376 of this current 1 minute candle. Put an order at 380, so it's ready to go. 4 million shares of volume. Low of day on this is 55. SNOA on the scanners. DCAR on the scanners. Looks like DCAR is a recent reverse split. TNXP going through the lows. SNOA, kind of on the cheaper side. GLBS, a little too weak. PED, let me look at the float on it. 6 million share float. Daily chart. History of making fairly big moves. Yeah, that one looks okay, especially as it would get above $3. Breaking 3, it's then got room up to 350. Very light volume today on the daily, or well, just on the day, but yeah, it's an interesting look. It's always good to be kind of mindful of what kind of day we're seeing. TNXP, pretty much, you know, it popped up for a second from 390 to a high of 412, but it just did not hold that level. You know, it's now selling off. So I don't know if it'll get a good red to green move. It certainly could, but right now it's definitely coming back down. GLBS, you know, the break of 822 to the short side, you know, is now dropped to 721. So this is a bear flag right here on GLBS with a low of 721. High is $8. TBLT, that one's got a little ways to go, I think, before it looks better to me. SNOA kind of keeps hitting the scanners. Pre-market high is $1.40, so you know it shows it can make moves, but looking back on the daily chart, a couple candles here with high upper wicks, so showing a history of popping up and then selling off a bit. BPTH, I would be okay with watching this probably after daily consolidation of a couple more days. I think right now it's too early to jump into it. Let me look at the spreads. Nice on BPTH for those of you guys who are scalping it. I would, you know, kind of watch halt levels and stuff like that. Halt levels at 29.46, so it's a ways off. It's up 23%. You can see this daily. It's kind of running into this little pivot that it had here around 26.94. So you can see what it does in this level. Again, this is a higher price stock. The risk is a lot higher on this. CIFS, you know, after the drop on Friday, it's a little harder to trust as well. GLBS curling back up a little bit. BPTH from 23.50 to 27.60, so 4-point move there. Yesterday's high was 35.86. That's ultimately the level that would need to break for this to really get people off the sidelines, I think. You know, I think what you're seeing on BPTH is, you know, just kind of a little bit of that FOMO. I'm not seeing a clear pullback yet, though. You know, you go back to the 10-second chart, and it's like, all right, I guess I could see a little something there, but on the 1 minute, it hasn't given a clean pullback, which you really kind of need for a stock of this price range. DCAR. TNXP. Nice, John. Wow, good job. So, you know, it's kind of seems like we're getting on this BPTH is just, you know, people kind of jumping into it. They're like, oh, it's running again. So, you know, I'm watching it. It's just halt level 30 is now at 32. High a day is 31.67, so it, you know, still hasn't given a good pullback, a safe pullback. So there's your pullback. So the high is 31.67. See if it pulls back maybe towards 27.65 or something like that. TNXP. So this 5-minute candle is going to close as a shooting star on BPTH. So that's the close of the candle, and that's the formation. So now buying the first 1-minute candle to make a new high is really difficult when you have that type of 5-minute candle. So this is one of those ones where if you'd given in to FOMO and just bought it at 26 or 27, you would have made money. And that's one of the really hard things about trading, is that sometimes following the rules does not, in the short term, reward you. Long term, it will, but short term, it can feel like, man, I followed my rules and waited for a pullback, and look at this thing. It goes from 23 to $31.67 without a pullback. And now here's the first pullback, but now by this time, your 5-minute pattern doesn't look good. So, rules is rules. That's it. High is 31.67. Yeah, and a lot of times my strategy for trying to trade these types of stocks will be just to take a starter at an arbitrary place, but the risk of doing that is certainly higher, just because you might end up hitting the very high a day. So I would say right now the 1-minute looks decent, it looks okay, I guess, but the 5-minute doesn't look great. So have to kind of watch this area, maybe ABCD pattern on the 1-minute. Will that help overcome this poor 5-minute chart? Well, not really, but I would say there's a very high likelihood that at 31.67 it does a false breakout. However, FOMO can run strong, and that can sometimes make stocks irrationally strong, even despite poor 1-minute or 5-minute setups. So this is not a strong 5-minute setup by any means. But there you go. There's 32.50. 32.50 is showing at the circuit breaker halt, and if it holds that level, it may get halted. CLPS, let me look at that one. Okay, well, that one's up 17%, but only has 13,000 shares of volume, so it's very thinly traded. Halt is now at 32.90 on BPTH. Remember, the high yesterday was 35.86. So this looks like it's going to be the first circuit breaker halt, up 56%. So while we see this strength, will we see sympathy momentum on another stock? That's kind of the question. Now that this one is just squeezed up 8 points, or whatever it is, 10 points, will we see one of the other ones we're watching start to squeeze up as well? TNXP isn't doing it yet. GLBS, I don't think it will do it. Nope, I'm not in. I'm watching from the sidelines because for me, the only pullback that we had here was not a good 5-minute setup. And if I'm going to trade a stock that's over $10, which means it's high risk, I need to feel very, very confident. You know how quickly you could lose $1 per share on a stock like this. I'm up $1,000 right now. That's certainly not the best day of the year, but it's a green day, and I don't want to give it back just being kind of sloppy and jumping into this and then instantly losing, $1,000 or $2,000. I would be so frustrated with myself if I did that. I'd be more frustrated with myself if I gave back profit than if I missed out on a trade. Exponentially so. So I'm going to go with it's okay to miss out on a trade than to give back profit. And I'm going to just look for the next trade. I'm going to look for the next opportunity. There may be, a stock that suddenly does start to take off because BPTH is so strong. Other stocks start to make big moves as well. But as I'm going through the list of stocks that we've watched this morning, we haven't had the best follow through. TBLT is a tough one on the daily because of these sort of bigger red candles. That's the daily sort of marked by big red candles. So right now I'm not super into it. I will still watch BPTH, coming out of the halt. A circuit breaker halt by itself can create a setup. So depending on where it resumes, I like the idea of being able to do a dip buy, but I'm not sure that this one is in the crazy place yet. It's popping up. It may set up the first daily candle to make a new high, but I'm not sure it's in the place where it's quite safe enough to do that type of setup, so I'm just going to kind of watch it. The halt time was 9:48 and 40. The halt time was 9:48 and 23 seconds. So resumption should be 9:53 and 23 seconds. CLPS, I would say, has an interesting daily chart. This is one that we traded as it was squeezing up here, making this kind of bigger move. GBR. But, the volume is so light. And GBR, it's also a stock we've traded in the past. You can see it has a history of making big moves. Where does it start to really look crazy on the daily, like start to really get people's attention? I don't know. But again, this is one that might have some serious bag holders. People who are holding this from $8, $9, $10. Some of them might have averaged down. And so, boom, you're going to have a 75,000 share seller here, and another one here, and another one here, as people just try to, get out with less damage. BPTH about a minute from resumption if it's a 5-minute long halt. AQB, this one I didn't really watch closely on Friday. I guess the move was more in the afternoon. Let's see. AQB. The high a day is, well, it just hit the high, which was about $4. That one's maybe one to keep an eye on. I'd probably be a buyer over 4 on AQB. I'll just watch it here for a second. BPTH, resumption about 20 seconds away. AQB, I'm not sure if it's going to really open up. So the high coming into the halt was 32.90. I think that this one might open a little lower. So, could watch for a dip buy. Well, no, kind of opened flat there. And then there's that dip, right? So could you try to punch the order there to buy at $30, $30.26? You could try to do a dip buy on it. And then your target would be that it would squeeze over the high of the halt over 32.90. So there's 31.50. It's not quite there yet. Below 30 is a no good. That's like a bailout, if I was in it. Big spreads there, 45-cent spread. Below 30, I would not be happy. So, yeah, it's just kind of, that chop. AQB is doing a 1-minute pullback right here. I put an order at 402, so it's ready to go. I'm not sure if it's going to work. BPTH, 29.50. $29. AQB here. Seems like there's sellers at 98. I don't know. 99, 4. There's a hidden seller at 4. You can tell because there's all that buying, but it's not breaking that level. So, you know, that gets kind of boring. People give up on it and then it drops. Yeah, BPTH, you know, just maybe on a 5-minute setup or something. DFFN, this one, you know, was so bad on Friday. Again, it's really hard to trust. Like, yes, this is a red to green move. You know, yes, it's clearly hitting the scanners. It looks like it's going to get halted here at 545, but I can't trust it. That daily chart is a mess. Alright, I'll look at that one. YTRA. Let me check to see what the float is. 28 million share float, so it's a little on the higher side. That's why it's not on my scanners. You know, yeah, it's definitely popping up there, but with that higher float, I'm not sure if it's gonna catch as much attention. It is halted, yeah. And it looks like there's a headline for a buyout. Nice, Maurice. Good job. DFFN, only 111,000 shares of volume. YTRA, this type of headline at 9:53. So it's an offer to acquire at $7 per share. It's an offer. We don't have confirmation that it's been accepted. So, you know, that type of, the high is, the halt was at 53. Let's see, let me check something. Yeah, we'll see. Let's keep an eye on this just because of the halt on the news, or because of the news headline that's there. BPTH, I'm just going to let that consolidate for a little bit. Yeah, and that's definitely true on YTRA. It could get halted pending news. It could switch to halted pending news at any time now, and then it won't resume until the company has either released a statement or whatever. On NASDAQ halt, it still says the reason for the halt is volatility. But yeah, so let's watch it for a resumption. I'll just put an order there for maybe a scalp up towards 7, but I'm not sure that it's going to resume here. Let's see, the halt time was 54. There were some orders that went through at 54. 5408. Yeah, so 1004.13 potentially. We'll watch it. YTRA. So BPTH, it did end up making a new high up to 32.94. Light volume on the red candles, so it may be worth watching first 5-minute candle to make a new high. All right, so resumption on YTRA, about 2 minutes away, or about a minute and 20 seconds away. No, this isn't a bear flag. So remember, a bear flag, I mean, you could say that in this very short context, this is a drop and then sideways consolidation. However, when you step back, it's in the context of this move. So that makes it a bull flag. Most people, when they refer to bull flags, it's when stocks have gone up. And when they refer to bear flags, it's when stocks have dropped down, maybe like a GLBS. GLBS this is a bear flag. That's a consolidation at the low. It's not a perfect bear flag, but yeah. MCRB on the scans. Yep, I'll keep an eye on that one. I'm going to watch the resumption on YTYR or YTRA here. No resumption yet, so this may end up getting halted pending news, but I'll just have an order here at 5 for a possible scalp. So it's probably going to be halted pending news. I know I see it's news there, but it's not news on NASDAQ, and NASDAQ is what I would really trust more than the trade idea scanners, NASDAQ.com. But in any case, MCRB moving up a little bit. So this has a 200 moving average at 720. High a day is 680. I'll put an order at 681 for a possible scalp. So got a starter of 1,600 shares, 1,900 shares at 83 on MCRB. So I want to see the break of 7. Halt level is showing at $7.16. So watching this here now, doesn't seem like it's giving me that breakout. So the high is 7. I mean, I guess could see if it comes back up towards that level. Let's watch it for a second. I still have 968 shares at 83. So YTRA is now halted pending news on NASDAQ. Stopped out for $230 loss on MCRB. Buying into the 200 can be a little risky. You know, however, when you have a stock that's made this type of big move, this would be the type of day where it could break through that level, and then you've got a lot of room above it. So a little past 10 a.m. here. BPTH, which I was watching for a 5-minute pattern, ended up breaking to the downside here. So that kind of screws up the 5-minute pattern. YTRA, I wouldn't even really look at it long or short at this point. It's going to be a while, probably before it resumes. So the dip there down to 2607 on BPTH. Well, MCRB high day volume is red with a red doji, so I probably would not go back for it. That's a candle of indecision. I mean, it may give a 5-minute setup, but with high day volume on MCRB being on a red candle, I'm concerned that that's a warning flag right at the high of day or right at the 200 moving average. I think that's all going to be too difficult, but you know, I mean, we'll see what it does. MCRB, put an order at $7 if it does come back up. Down 232 on that stock, so it's not a big deal to take another stab at it, but BPTH, high of the last 5-minute candle here was 28.94. You can see on the 1 minute a little bit of basing out here between 27 and 28, kind of right at the VWAP. MCRB, so, you know, there's your high of 719 on MCRB, right at the 200. So what I would typically say is, you know, the high is 19. I could watch this level for a 1 minute micro pullback underneath the highs. You know, halt level is showing at 45 right now. High is now 45. I keep kind of moving my order up. So in this case, I'll go down to a 10-second chart for a second and just kind of see what that looks like. Halt level is 768. BPTH is now kind of ruined for a 5-minute setup. It's just coming way down way too much. So the high is 768. Despite high day candle being red here, this 5-minute candle, you know, it recovered and squeezed back up. So high of the last 1-minute candle on MCRB is 50. So I'll take a starter here for a squeeze through high a day. The high is 68. So we're looking for a break over 68 on MCRB. So there's 67 on the ask. I want to see 68 break and then potentially a move up towards $8. So I'll put an order at 70 to add. If we break over 70, we should have a good shot at getting pretty close to $8. Right now we've got, let's see, a flat top right here. So I've got my order at 73 ready to go. Watching. All right, so on this one, I'm a little nervous. I'm gonna put a new order at, I don't know, maybe 95. The high there was 81. The way it kind of just flashes through these levels. High is 81. Put an order at 85 for a scalp up towards 8. Go reduce my share size a little bit. Sold the rest 50 at 760. FFHL on the scans. High is 297. If I say I'm putting an order somewhere, I'm typing it in my order entry window, and then all I have to do is press the buy button. You know, and so sometimes I'll put the order there, and then I'll hesitate or not take the trade for whatever reason, because I don't like what I see on the level 2, or, I rethink the setup. But yeah, it's me setting up the order in my order entry window, so it's ready to go. So like FFHL, right now I set up an order at 301. So it's ready to go. I see a 50,000 share buyer at 280. However, only 80,000 shares of volume on the day is pretty light. So I'm not sure. And as I look at the daily chart on this, on the one hand, it has a history of popping up. On the other hand, most of the days it pops up, it sells off. So it's kind of the top of a little pop right here already. If it got above 320, maybe it would start to look better. But that bid, that 50,000 share bid at 280 is, that is interesting. So you can see 89 by 93 is the current spread on FFHL. On this one, I would just watch it for right now for me. The risk on it is a little higher since the volume is lighter. I don't know that enough traders are really watching it that it's going to really explode. So 98 on the ask, 97, 98, 3, 307, 310. So I'm on these ones, like, I'm okay with buying it at a little bit of a higher price in order to get the confirmation that people are really interested, that they're really watching it closely. Now, if it goes here and then drops right back down to 280, I'm going to say, you know what, I did the right thing by sitting tight and waiting for a second. If it goes up to 350, then I can buy the pullbacks the way I did on MCRB. BPTH may set up a ABCD pattern. I wasn't interested in buying the first candle to make a new high because it was below the VWAP here. Having said that, are we going to get an ABCD pattern, or is this thing just going to irrationally go right back to high a day? I would prefer to wait for an ABCD pattern because I could manage my risk better on it. So I'm just going to leave it alone for right now. Price is obviously high. FFHL, the high is 310. YTRA. I'm looking at the YTRA resumption. Yeah, so it says resumption 10:30. So we'll watch YTRA on resumption. FFHL, you can see it. It kind of popped up there, but hasn't really held the level very well. So for right now, it's just still one that I would watch. Below 280, I definitely wouldn't be interested. MCRB may give us another 5-minute setup, or actually the first true 5-minute setup. So I'll keep it on watch. I'm up $1,714.30 on TNXP and MCRB. We're getting pretty close to the end of the first hour, which is when I usually would scale back my trading. I use both the 5-minute and the 1-minute for setups. On stocks I think are higher risk, like a BPTH, I'd really like 5-minute confirmation. So the thing with YTRA, we don't know where it's going to resume, right? So the offer is, what was it for? $7 per share. So, it's like, is it going to resume at 7? And if it does, well, then we probably can't really do a lot with it. I mean, it's just going to be up so much. Sure, we could try to scalp it into the next halt going up, but really you only have two things. What are the two options? Number one, the company accepts the offer and then it's going to go back to 7. Or they reject the offer and some might say, well, it's because they think they're worth more, so maybe it'll go up a little bit. And other people say, well, they're not going to accept it right away. I'm not going to wait around. It's going to go down. It's not really totally obvious. So now if it resumes at 5, well, sure, I'd definitely buy it for a move up towards 7, because it should move up towards 7. But if it resumes at 7, which often they do, then we miss the opportunity, which really no one would have been able to buy this in this 1-minute candle when it spiked up. But resumption here says about 30 seconds away. So I'll put an order at $6 for a possible scalp, coming out of this halt on YTRA, and we'll just see where it opens. Of course, I can always press Shift 1 for my hotkey. So right now it looks like 520s, which, I'd be totally comfortable buying that. So just added, I'm long. I'm trying to buy this out of this halt. Of course, my bias on it is that it goes up. So 524 over 524 for me would be an add. So I'm in at 5, and over 524 would be an add. Just added at 523. Honestly, I'm surprised on this one. I expected a much, much stronger breakout. Look at that huge seller at 525. I'm out. I'm selling. That's a 100,000 share seller. You know what? I don't know what to say on this. I'll take the $1,000 and be done with it. You have an offer to buy the stock at $7 and someone's trying to sell it at, $425 or $525. So I was a little aggressive there. I was down like 2 grand on it for a second. Pretty high level of confidence though. Where did I add? I added at 19 and then sold at 22, 23, at 24. You know, I had a pretty high level of confidence in it because you have that buyout for $7. I figured at least if it didn't surge right out of the halt, the first dip would get bought up. But yeah, I don't know. So, you know, that puts us at 10:30. It's the end of the first hour. We've seen some volatility this morning. We've seen some opportunity. I'm going to finish up $3,023.64. You know, today was a day where I got a couple base hits. I didn't get home runs, but those base hits add up, you know, when you're trading with, you know, 9,000, 10,000, 15,000 shares. So take the base hits and live to trade another day. It looks like that seller there at 25 is getting bought up. Watch it go to $7 without me. But whatever. You know, always know when to walk away. So that's it for me. I'll be back at it first thing tomorrow. We'll do a recap in just a little bit.